Welcome to the Podawan podcast. I'm your host, Steve, alongside co-host Ollie, and today we're going to discuss some director rumors, some bounty hunter news, some Rogue One prequel news, and then we got some interesting questions that we're going to answer, which is sponsored by Charlie Caps, which is coming in hot. Welcome to another episode of the Podawan podcast. I am actually currently sick, so if you can't tell by my voice, it's a little bit off. So it's been kind of a rough week. Ollie, how's your week been going? How was your Valentine's Day?
It was good. We did it on Saturday.
Oh, nice. Nothing special.
So went to dinner, checked out a new place.
Oh, nice.
It was good. How about you?
We went out to dinner as well. We actually went back to where we went on our first date, so it was a nice dinner. Nice. And then we actually started. We watched A New Hope.
Right.
Yeah, my girlfriend hasn't. She hasn't watched Star Wars, so I don't know if the listeners knew that or not. But so she hasn't watched Star Wars, so we decided we're going to do the machete order because chronologically, I thought since she hasn't watched them, but if she watched them chronologically, I'd feel she might get confused and lost in the shuffle. So since
what version of the machete order are you doing?
We're doing
4,
5, 2, 3, 6, and then the new ones. Gotcha. I mean those don't. I'm not gonna I don't think you really need to cut those up. You could just watch them in order, gotcha. unless you feel. There is another machete order actually out there for that, isn't there?
Yeah, I liked the advanced one that we put together.
What was the other? What was the order after?
I forget. I wrote it down. I thought the best way to do it was one.
God.
1 Rogue One, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 7. Yep. And then there was an argument of 7, then Solo 8, 9, or just 7, 8, 9. If you wanted to do all of them, that's where you'd put Solo, I guess. But
yeah, I don't.
The couple that I like better. I like that version better because I think I know everyone hates Phantom Menace for whatever reason, but yeah. I think that's a good one, and it's a good one to watch first because it lays out a bunch of the Jedi High Council and kind of what was going on. It's 10 years before Episode 2. So it does this whole thing, but it doesn't really ruin anything, but it sets up the Star Wars universe kind of cool. So then when you go watch Rogue One, I think Rogue One before A New Hope is the best way to do it too. But when you go Rogue One, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, I feel like it kind of excites you in the way that you're like, wow, way back the first movie I watched was when the Republic was at its height and they were doing well and everything was good, but there was the Darth Maul or whatever. But in other words, the Jedi are in power, and then you kind of skip ahead and you're like, holy shit, what happened? So then by the time you finish Empire Strikes Back and get into that storyline, when you go back to watch 2 and 3, you're like, oh, this is how it all went down. This is why we're in the place that we are in Rogue One. You know what I mean? But I think I was talking about it with my wife too, because she's seen them, and we were talking about what order to do it in. I think the only thing that stinks is I think that would be a really cool order to do it in, but I can imagine watching it for the first time. It is the only problem with the machete order is it is jarring to go from 1977 graphics to 2001 graphics to 2017 graphics. You know what I mean?
Disney
the
Plus,
I feel like that's tough.
Yeah, but Disney Plus, it has the remastered versions of the. I mean, they're still they still dated. I mean, but
you can't.
There's
watch,
a little bit.
You can't watch Rogue One and then A New Hope and not be jarred by
the
difference
quality.
In time, our time. Yeah.
I think if we're gonna go by quality of the movie, obviously A New Hope is probably the weakest one in terms of how it looks, just because it was the first movie.
They were still creating stuff to make. Yeah. No, So what did you do? You just watched A New Hope?
We just watched A New Hope just to start. I mean,
and what did she think?
She thought it was entertaining. I didn't get that was good. Yeah, I think. I mean, she already knows what happens with Vader,
right?
Because everybody knows. So
right, yeah.
So that's not going to be a twist. However, I think 2 and 3 are going to be interesting because that will show a whole different perspective to her.
Right,
and then.
So you're just going to totally skip 1.
Yeah, at this point. I mean, because I don't. I mean, I like Phantom Menace, but I feel like if I were to start with that, I feel like it would just. It's some people love it, and some people, or I should say, love it. Most people don't love it. Most people don't like it. So I don't want to start off with something that chances are she's probably not going to like it. A New
Gotcha.
Hope, at least the storyline is like it. A New Hope, actually, it definitely is. If you watch it as one movie alone, it actually works for the most part. I mean, you do have references here and there. You have the Clone Wars reference. You have a bunch of other references, and
No,
then
it's self-contained. They blow up the Death Star, and you can see that as
Vader's the
the
only
ultimate victory. Yeah.
Vader flying out into space is like maybe the only thing that's kind of like, oh, what happened to him? But like that's
Yeah, but you can see it much more as a victory, and then
yeah,
when they expand upon the universe, you realize that wasn't a victory. You don't know, like a huge victory. Obviously, the Empire was still around and everything, but
right,
you don't know that in the movie. Yeah, no, I agree.
right, exactly. So that's.
So when are you going to do Rogue One? You're not going to do Rogue One either.
I was gonna do Rogue One after the original Machete order because I just I really
I
just
think you missed a chance there.
no, I don't think I did because I think it would confuse the hell out of her because
Why? Rogue One
you
is
start
literally the
with Rogue
prequel to A
One.
New Hope. Yeah, it explains A New Hope really
Uh,
well.
I just didn't think it was. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I didn't. I thought start with the original Machete order, act like the Rogue One's not part of it, and then maybe watch it later. But whatever.
Gotcha.
And also
Cool.
the other thing too, like you said, like going from Rogue One to A New Hope, like it's like you said, the quality is like completely different. So it might be kind of like what the hell.
Yeah,
So
I guess. I think
um,
storyline wise, though, I think Rogue One's one of the. I think Rogue One may be the best Star Wars movie, but
it might be, yeah, it's up there. I mean, it's
no.
number 3 for me. So
Anyways, yeah, no, that's cool. It'll be exciting. It'll be interesting to see what she thinks at the end. Yeah.
yeah. So going
Cool.
into our news for
Yep.
this week. The first piece, Bounty Hunters #1, the comic series is dropping March 11th. They just showed the cover, and you can see right on the cover is Boba Fett and Bosk right off the bat. So I know you mentioned that you were super excited about this comic book series, like what it's going to show.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I think it seems like it's going to be grittier. Like I talk about a lot, it is also it's not necessarily in the timeline I'm super interested in, but again,
Yeah.
it's more of a content thing that I'm interested in. There may be some stuff floating around. I don't know that there'll be direct things that impact the Mandalorian, but I think there'll be some.
Yeah.
I think some things will float in and out. Do we actually know? I've been excited for it in a way that I haven't looked into. Some things I get excited for and I look completely into, you know what I mean? And I look at all the leaks and everything. This one's been more, I'm excited to read it, but I haven't done any research on it because I kind of want to go in cold turkey. But do you know generally the timeline? This is in between Empire Strikes Back and, or is it before that?
I actually don't know.
Well, cool.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen anything that has.
Are you interested in reading it too?
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I can. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we'll do like each podcast. I don't know that it needs its own video, but each podcast we can do a review. They only come out like once a month, right? So
yeah. I mean, it's cool that they're giving like Boss, for instance, like you see him in the movies, but he doesn't really do much.
Right.
Whereas in Boba Fett too. I mean, like Boba Fett was kind of we've talked about. It's kind of like he was there. He was a side character in the movies, but he never got like a full. He never got like a full he was a major character, I guess, in that sense. So it's kind of cool to see more.
Hopefully they get into, and this is what I'm talking about with the Mandalorian. Hopefully we get to see kind of the Bounty Hunters Guild expanded upon a little bit, and see what it was like before, the Empire fell, because that'll play a little bit into what we see. Maybe we'll get Grief Karga. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll see.
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll do some reviews. I mean, it's once a month, so we'll take a little segment once every couple. So it'd be probably once every 4 episodes, and we'll break it down. Just in general, if you're interested in the bounty hunter thing, and I would bet that there's going to be some light shown on some areas that'll explain some things in Mandalorian and add a little more depth to the bounty hunter world. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, for sure. And Valance, so on the cover, the main guy, he looks a lot like Cable. So it's very
That's the guy
interesting.
that was in the Vader Down comics, right?
Yep.
Or Enemy Target Vader.
Yeah, it was
Something
that
like
one.
that. I think it's
Yeah,
Target Vader. Yeah, I should
yeah,
go back and read those because I knew he was going to be in this. I think
yeah,
there's only like 5 or 6 of those.
yeah, something like that. I don't
Maybe I'll
remember.
check those out. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
so that's a cool comic. If you guys are into the comics, go check that out. Moving on, we're so recently around the Oscars, Takia, Taki,
Taika.
God, Taika, Jesus, Taika Watiti is. They approached him, or they interviewed him about Star Wars and future films, and that if he was going to be directing any films, if there was something related to a major film coming up that he was directing, there's been talks, and there was a
You
lot
have
of.
that quote?
I have the quote. So there was. He responded, I think people see me hanging out with people, especially with Star Wars, and think I'm having some big discussions about it. I would effing love to if it was right. I would want to do any kind of movie if it made sense, if it felt like not like career suicide. So what that means, at least to me, is that he wants to be 100% behind it. What's your thoughts on the?
Yeah, I mean, this is why I like Taika. I think he's only going to do something that to do. But I think I think he's it's kind of that double-edged sword, which they get into. I think that's the exact terminology that they use of the Star Wars universe. Is it's kind of like, obviously it's a lot of these directors' dreams to do. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? They're fans, and I think he's a fan. But it's unforgiving right now. Look at Ryan Johnson. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And even JJ, it's gotten a lot of flack. Like, you know what I mean? So I think what he's mentioning is just kind of like he would love to sit down with the higher ups at Disney and go into um, a long conversation about something that could be done. You know what I mean? A certain
right.
storyline or whatever. Whether that means he pitches it or he gets pitched it and gets to get into the details of it.
Now he
And
did.
if he loved it and was 100% behind it, he'd do it.
Yeah,
But he's not going to do anything he's not super comfortable with and doesn't have control over. I don't think, because he sees it as right now. If you go into a Star Wars movie half-ass, you know what I mean? And
it's
and
gonna
I
be
think what he
bad.
means by that is, if he's 100% behind what he's doing, he's not super worried about the fan reaction.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But if he's not behind it 100%, like, in other words, if he gets to do the movie he wants to do and he's 100% behind it, I don't
yeah,
think he's going to be super bothered by if fans don't like it. You know what I mean?
yeah. Oh yeah,
Where because
absolutely.
he'll be 100% behind it. If he wouldn't take a movie and be like, "Oh yeah, okay, kind of," and do it, because then he would feel genuinely bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh
If
yeah.
he got raked
And
over the coals for it.
I think they need that kind of blunt honesty too. I mean, that's a.
I
I
lose
think
you?
no, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Um, no, I think
Does that make sense?
yeah, I was gonna say I think they need that blunt honesty. They need someone like that. I think that if he is, he's being honest about the whole situation. And he's also, in terms of writing and stuff, like you said, he doesn't want you. You don't want a half-ass effort, because then you're gonna get shelled for it.
Right,
Um,
and I think he looks at, I think a lot of them look at Ryan Johnson in the way that, and I see it this way too. I don't think Ryan Johnson's like, he made the movie he wanted to make.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So Ryan Johnson, and he got a backlash for it, but I think Ryan Johnson's 100% comfortable in what he did. You know what I mean?
I
He
think
enjoys it. So that's kind of where I think Taika is too. If he gets the chance to do his movie or something that he's 100% behind,
yeah,
he'll live with the consequences, but he's
right.
not going into it half-ass. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
and the other thing too, I would also say is that if people are pissed off about Ryan Johnson, then you should actually really honestly you should look at the Lucasfilms management. I mean, they're the ones that are they're like giving the okays for all this stuff. So they're I know a lot of people have a lot of criticism of Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilms in general, but like that, they're the ones that are like, okay, the movie's great, let's shoot, like send it out, like that's
yeah, and I think honestly, looking at it as a whole, now that the whole series is out and
yeah,
and kind of hearing how it went, I don't think I'm not a giant fan of The Last Jedi. I don't hate it like most people, but I don't love it either.
yeah,
However, I'm more that I don't love, and I think most people, even the people who hate it, it's more the storyline.
Yeah.
And it's because the storyline based on what happened in Force Awakens, where it went. So in other words, I think the issue was that the general trilogy wasn't written. Like I think he didn't. There was one of the best fight scenes in all of Star Wars history. That throne room scene is unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's some really good scene setups and location. So much of the film is really good. Even in my opinion, it just fell a little flat for me on like the island with Luke and Rey is really my biggest problem with it. Is just that the Force, the way it, I don't know. I thought there could have been more of the Jedi training and the building. I understand what happened, and I appreciate the way he took it. For it being, I think it works. I just don't. It wasn't. It you know. I just think it could have been better. But my point is, Ryan made a really good movie in and of itself, in my opinion. I think it was just like the storyline just veered off of what, you know what I mean? So like if Force Awakens wasn't there and it didn't need to get to Rise of Skywalker, I think it would be looked at a lot differently. Does that make any sense? Like it just was a weird, I think they needed to have a through line and then let Rian Johnson go. And I think it would have been much better. I think it was the fact that they didn't have a through line that made some of the stuff kind of go awry. I think
the biggest issue with this whole deal, and I have kind of a different opinion, I guess, now that I've been reading more. I think it has to do with George Lucas, and not that it's not his fault. I think he had the storyline before they came out. He said, "This is what I want for 7, 8, 9." And they scrapped it. They only took some of the ideas and they scrapped the rest of it. I would argue that, all right, if everyone doesn't like this new trilogy, well then maybe in the next movies you should let George Lucas do what he was, his ideas, because he is the mastermind. I don't think he's ever come out and said, this trilogy was exactly what I want. This is awesome. Like I haven't.
No, we know it's not.
Yeah. So if they actually went with that, and then let J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, let them run with what the ideas were, they probably will have had a better, more cohesiveness between the story. And that's
you're completely right. There still would have been complaining. My point is, it's not even it's that there was no. They didn't have to go with George Lucas's. I agree with you. I probably would have.
He had the whole story, the whole thing.
They didn't have to go with George Lucas's plan.
No, but then create your own.
They just needed a plan,
right? And they didn't have.
It's clear that they didn't know. They needed a through line. They needed to know, here's A, B, and C. Okay, here's generally what's going to happen, and now run wild with it.
Yeah, Palpatine,
you know what I mean? And if they had listened to George Lucas, there would have been a clear A, B, and C, and then you could have gone wild with it. The problem wasn't so much just that they just didn't listen to Lucas's A, B, and C. It's that they didn't have an A, B, and C.
Right.
So once A was written, then Ryan was like, okay, my turn to write B, with no consideration of what's happening in C. Yeah. And I think that was the problem.
Lucasfilms was deserving of the backlash because they didn't have a second plan in place, and I feel that Palpatine was definitely a shoo-in, and that they didn't, it wasn't conceptualized before the first movie, and they kind of, we don't know that George Lucas, whether Palpatine was part of his original storyline or not, but we don't know, we have no idea. So it just felt like, I think Lucasfilms overall deserves all this backlash, because I feel like they didn't have a plan in place. It's clear as day. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, Rian Johnson tried using all these different ideas and trying to kind of go off the beating path a little bit with everything, which I didn't particularly like it, but it wasn't bad in the sense all right, he's trying to get creative. It's, right. I can't blame him for that. I can't be like, oh, his, creativity sucks. No, he's trying. He was trying to do something, he liked and that he thought the fans would like, and it didn't work to some extent, and it wasn't cohesive with the first movie, and a lot of it was kind of mixed in the third movie. So
it's too bad, because I think he could have done a really good job. And again, I'm a person who likes The Last Jedi. Like I said, I don't love it, but I I think his talents and the way he wrote The Last Jedi would have been better used in his own storyline, like
Right.
in the High Republic, for example. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I think people would have really liked it. But yeah, I think we agree on the overall thing of like the no plan. I disagree with the Palpatine thing. I think in the end, the Palpatine thing worked really well story wise. I think the problem is what the Palpatine thing did to like The Last Jedi and everything else. It made it feel like it wasn't real
Yeah.
there because it wasn't. It needed to be touched upon, even if it was very vaguely touched upon. It needed to be touched upon in each movie.
Yeah.
If you
No.
knew it was coming, and if they did know it was coming, then they dropped the ball. They needed
Ye-
to plant the seeds. So, in other words, I think at the end of the day, we both have the same opinion of that they didn't have a plan.
yeah.
I don't think the Palpatine thing I think it worked really well, and the ending of it, I think makes a lot of sense. I think it just when they clearly kind of decided to do it, then it just makes the other two movies seem it moves stuff in those movies. You know what I mean? It makes it like
almost. Like Force
well,
Awakens.
not insignificant. It just like there was no lead up to it. You know what I mean? There needed to be, if you were reading the books, in other words, like as a canon junk, and maybe this, let me come from a completely clean on this. I think Palpatine works if you're a huge canon junkie because it was hinted at in a lot of stuff, like in Aftermath so like the seeds were there, and that's why I think for me the Rise of Skywalker works really well, and the Palpatine thing works really well.
I disagree, but that's just me.
You've read all the canon?
Yeah, I
and all the stuff. There's a ton of seeds. It was planted throughout the whole thing that Palpatine didn't want to die, had these outposts, had all this stuff. So there's way more explanation, and it does make it leads you, whether you like it or not, it's in canon that this was a possibility and that this could have been a thing. But in the movies, it doesn't say anything. Like you would never know.
Where besides Aftermath? Because that
all of his satellite stuff, all of his probing into the unknown regions, the Thrawn stuff that talks about how he knew about stuff out there and was always looking out there, his outpost, the Jakku outpost, it was all laid out that he was interested in this power out there and was always searching to be, I mean, even if you want to go outside of canon a little bit, and the whole Plagueis novel, right?
Right. I never, I guess reading the Thrawn trilogy, I never looked
at Plagueis's thing. So like,
yeah,
all of that makes the Rise of Skywalker actually make a lot of sense, because there were little, like I said, little seeds and a trail to make it make sense. My point is, it's not in any of the movies.
Right.
Like you watch Force Awakens, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think if you're into the overall canon, and I'm not saying that it was like all planned for the movies, it did feel like shoehorned in at the end. Yeah. I'm just saying that from a person who's read all the canon and followed those breadcrumbs, it does make sense that Palpatine was behind everything. And it may, whether you like it or not in terms of like how they brought him back, and that's all opinion, you know what I mean? Like right. Of his powers and where he was and Exegol and all that stuff's more just like, did you like the way they did it? Which is fine if you hated it. I'm just saying that the breadcrumbs were there in canon to make it make sense that Palpatine came back, but those breadcrumbs were all in the ancillary stuff, the books, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so if you were just a fan of the movies and just dabble in the books a little bit, yeah, it definitely should have felt jarring because it kind of came out of nowhere. So that's my struggle with it, that we talk about all the time, that we read canon. So like, I wasn't shocked by the Palpatine thing. I thought it was really cool and I liked it, but I also I could have seen it coming a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it made sense with the rest of the stuff, but not everybody, most people don't have the rest of the stuff. It just came out of nowhere. And it's like, whoa, I can see how if you're just watching Force Awakens and Last Jedi, it's like, holy moly, now we're just going to bring back this guy that got killed in episode 6? Like, how does that make sense? You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe I just was naive about some of the stuff when in the canon. I didn't pick up on. I thought after the Aftermath that it was like clear as day. Is like, all right, he's gone. Like, there's no way he's coming back. I didn't watch the first two movies thinking, oh, Palpatine's gonna come back, and obviously the
No, and
throughout
that's my
trilogy.
point. Like
Yeah, no, like
the movies didn't suggest it
but
at
even
all.
reading the books, I didn't get that sense. Like yeah, obviously they drop hints about like he was looking out in the unknown regions, like you were saying, but like I never put that and thought, oh, that means he might be alive. Like I never thought that. I was kind of just like, oh, he was just interested in it, and they just never capitalized on it, and it just
Let
that's
me
it
be
is what it is.
Yeah, let me be clear in saying that. Like, I wasn't sitting here going, Palpatine's definitely coming back. That's not what
Yeah,
I'm saying. I'm saying that if you had read all the canon and all the stuff you just said, the breadcrumbs with Palpatine coming back makes a lot more sense if you have all the canon knowledge of like he was always looking out there. You know, the Clone Wars, if you had read Plagueis, even though that's not officially canon, but like his cloning, his always looking for the way to cheat that, like that was his whole thing.
right.
It the whole Snoke thing, once again, it's all in retrospect. I was not sitting here saying Palpatine's definitely coming back when Force Awakens came out. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that. It didn't tell you that. I'm
Yeah,
just saying once you've seen it, there's a lot more backing it up that doesn't seem as random if you were completely into canon the whole time. Whereas if you're just watching the movies, it seems completely random.
oh
You
yeah,
know what I
for
mean? And
sure.
I think that's the biggest complaint. And again, like we've talked about, like of course you can like or dislike the way that it all happened, like his powers and how, like all that's more like a taste thing of how it was delivered.
Yeah,
But the actual storyline of Palpatine, um, it does have backing if you've read all the canon. Like there was a breadcrumb trail that you can now follow and go, wow, okay, it makes more sense than if you just watch the movies.
yeah.
Is my point. So the people who are just the fans that are into the movies and stuff like that, like I get why they're upset about Palpatine just showing up, and they thought that was shoehorned in.
Felt it was lazy on some level.
Yeah. I mean, people did, yeah. But it is interesting because it does make me wonder because I've heard different things about like they said Palpatine would come back and be the big bad before Force Awakens was released. You know, it had been talked about. Now, obviously, there wasn't. If that's true, there wasn't a very good delivery of that through line because they could have done a better job with hints
Yeah,
in the Force Awakens and in the Last Jedi, so that it wasn't as jarring in the beginning of the Rise of Skywalker. There could have been, you know what I mean, little foreshadowing and stuff like that. That I even after it came out, going back and watching the Last Jedi and a Force Awakens, I don't think there's anything. You know what I
right,
mean? Which
right.
makes me think that they may, even if they had talked about it and maybe they had talked about it and maybe it was the plan the whole time and they
Yeah,
set it up in other canon like Aftermath and they were taking from the Plagueis book a little bit even though it's not canon, and maybe they had it all set up. And if that's the case, it's even more disappointing because if they had it all set up in canon and in the other stuff, they should have dropped just little hints in the first two movies and it could have been, you know what I mean? It could have been
yeah.
done a lot better, but we'll see. It is what it
Uh,
is.
so we got off,
Yeah,
we
no,
got
we
off a
got off.
little bit there, but it's all good. Taika. So just to end that, Taika is wrapping up his next film, which is Next Goal Wins. He's also doing Thor: Love and Thunder, which he's
Yep.
actually one of the characters in it, and he's also in the development of uh, act. Yikes!
Season 2.
No, Akira, which is
Oh, okay.
it's an old Japanese anime, which if you're an anime fan, you probably know what that is. So,
Cool.
and
Do we
yeah,
know he must be involved in season 2 of Mandalorian? No.
not that I know of. I haven't read anything on it yet. So the next one is that Diego Luna actually confirmed that the Rogue One series, prequel series, is confirmed for shooting this year for production. And I accidentally sent out a social media post that it was the movie, and the article that I read said that it was a movie, and then they corrected it and said it was the series. So I apologize for that. So he was referring to the series, not the
Just a
movie.
misquote.
Yeah, it was a misquote. So he was talking about the series. So that's the Cassian Andor series. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's scheduled to shoot in 2020 this summer, I guess. So, um, I don't know if you have any comments on that.
No. I mean, just excited for more content on stuff. I mean, like we had talked about before, like even the Obi-Wan, I love Obi-Wan and I love Rogue One, but the Obi-Wan and the Cassian series aren't exactly like jumping off. Like I'm not super excited for them because those timelines I think are already established pretty good. But I'll be excited when they come and we'll do reviews and I hope they're great. I know you're worried a little bit about it affecting Rogue One. I that doesn't happen for me. So if it's terrible, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I want it to be good.
If it was a movie,
it's not going to ruin.
If it was
so you were talking about it with being a movie.
Yeah. So if it was a movie, I would get a little bit concerned because Rogue One was such a good movie that if they were, it's kind of.
It's
it's one of those deals.
Some people, I don't understand it. I understand. I just don't think like that. Like in other words, like it's like if people loved the original trilogy and Han was their favorite character and then went to see Solo and hated it and now they can't watch the original trilogy, that's weird to me. Just ignore Han. Like if that was that bad, the original trilogy isn't touched. Just like if this stinks and you hate it, it shouldn't affect Rogue One. Rogue One's still its own thing. Like, you know what I mean?
No. So it's just like overall, like it's kind of, you're taking a good thing and it's like, all right, let's capitalize. Like they're clearly trying to capitalize on it, and we've known about the Cassian Andor series for a while. I thought I thought when I originally read this and when I was texting you, it was about the movie. So then when I was like, a movie on this, like before Rogue One, like why? Like great that we're getting more content, but like why? Like why a movie?
I think he'll be interesting in the series because he was on the separatist side when he was a kid, and he said he's been basically in the war since he was a kid. So, it'll be interesting to see where it takes place because they also say K2SO's in it, which by comic book standards, I think that means it can't be that much before Rogue One, like a couple of years maybe, which is a little bit of a bummer to me because I thought they could go further back, maybe him as a kid or a teenager with in the separatist thing, or however old he was in the Clone Wars. But I think we're going to get a grittier side of the rebellion because he kind of was one of those like, black site agent kind of, you know what I mean? Like
it'll be kind of similar to Solo a little bit in that sense. Kind of like Solo kind of was around the same time period too.
I hope it's a lot grittier than Solo.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm just saying like it's going to be kind of the same. Well, it might be different because of whatever worlds.
I'll have to look that up. I think he meets K2SO only like 2 years before Rogue One. It's something like not very far before is what the comic said. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I was hoping it was going to be like, more like Solo, maybe like I think that's 10 years before Rogue One.
Yes, because Darth Maul is still alive. So.
Yeah, so it's a so I think it's like 10 or 15 years or something like that. Yeah. This seems like it's going to be closer. But again, all speculation. Just because K2SO is in it doesn't mean he's in it from episode 1. You know what I mean? Like he could be in it at the end or whatever. So,
Yeah,
I'm not going to critique it before I see it. I'm just saying I'm hoping for a pretty gritty series, and I would like it to take place a little bit before that. But we'll see. Yeah. It'll be interesting.
So I think that ends our news segment for this week. Yep. So we're going to move on to our listener comment section segment. So every week we're going to be asking out to our listeners what questions and topics you want us to discuss, and we're going to answer them right on the podcast and have a little shout out to you guys. So first off, the listener segment, it's sponsored by Charlie Caps. Ollie, take it away.
Yeah, it's a company we run. It's called Charlie Caps. I wear them all the time. They're state-based logos. This one's an old one. This is the first one I ever made. But Rhode Island, Maine, Pennsylvania is what we have right now. A bunch of different choices. So check us out. It's charliecaps.com, CHOLLIECAPS.com. Yep, check us out at charliecaps.com and appreciate it. Yeah. So what kind of questions we got, Steve?
All right, so the first one... Actually, I took a couple from, this one is from Ebon Hawk. Will we be covering the Clone Wars is the first question, which, yes, we are. We're going to be doing episodes of each Clone Wars episode. Ollie, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on that one.
Yeah, no, we're excited about it. We'll do just like we did in The Mandalorian. We'll do episode breakdowns. I'm in the middle of a rewatch of the Clone Wars. I've been super busy moving into the new place, so I've been in and out. But I'm in the middle of season 2 now for a rewatch. Just trying to zoom through them, kind of freshen up on some stuff. I have watched a bunch of them in the last year, anyways, for like my Darksaber video and stuff like that. So I've kind of been all over the place. But I started a couple weeks ago, just doing like straight through, trying to follow the chronological order, which you can find online because it did jump around a little bit at the beginning. So yeah, no, I'm excited about it. There's just so much in the Clone Wars. It's pretty neat.
It wasn't even, I don't think it was even meant to be this much of an expansion on lore initially. I think it was just supposed to be a TV
it's
series.
Great though.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like we've talked about, it's super exciting. The most exciting stuff will probably obviously happen at the end with like the Siege of Mandalore and Ahsoka and Rex and kind of where that goes. And maybe if we see something with, what's his name? Moff Gideon from Mandalorian. Yeah. So if we see a little bit of that, I've looked at the timeline thing and gone back and studied it. We may not see it because I think he's going to be more involved in the, when they must go back when Bo-Katan's in control, like around A New Hope. I think that's really where he's been, but it'd be interesting to see if he is like some kind of junior officer or something. That'd be a neat little touch in the Siege of Mandalore. So Bad Batch, you know, there's a bunch of, is there anything specifically you're excited about in it?
No, I mean, like I saw, you know, they just dropped the Bad Batch trailer. I mean, it was pretty cool. It looks like it's going to be more grittier than the previous seasons.
Yeah.
In that sense, I mean, this is where things start to go dark, especially in the Star Wars universe. This is just before Revenge of the Sith. I would ask listeners, if you are watching the Clone Wars or you've watched it and you're going to watch this new season, definitely watch how Anakin is. That's because they portray him a little bit differently in the Clone Wars in the sense of how it gives a little more motivation as to why Episode 3 actually, like the storyline, like how it actually happens.
It adds a ton to Anakin's character.
It gives a lot more background. So definitely keep an eye on him and his relationship with Ahsoka as well. That's also a huge piece to that. So that's pretty much all the comments I have on that.
Yeah, I think the last thing is I'm excited to see if it does go beyond Order 66.
Yeah,
I've heard that it might. I've heard that it might dabble after the Siege of Mandalore, which is happening during Order 66, I believe.
Yep.
That if it dabbles a little bit, like we have like a fast forward, not as far as Rebels, like when it fast forwarded to after Return of the Jedi, but something like that, where we fast forward maybe a little bit before Ahsoka, like before her novel, but like maybe a little bit after that, and maybe see some of Order 66, some of the Jedi get taken out that we didn't see. So it'll be interesting to see if they do anything like that or if it ends right there.
Yeah. All right. So next question, what is your favorite Star Wars music? I'll let you kick that one off first.
I love a lot, if not all, of Star Wars music. My favorite is always going to be the Force theme. I've just heard so many versions, and it's just such a killer. Like when John Williams uses it in the movies, it's just such a cool tune. But you know, that's definitely my overall favorite. I do really like Rey's theme from the new stuff. And I thought it was really cool. Some of the new things, how they like combined some of the themes. Major scale to make it seem a little bit lighter. John Williams is brilliant. It's awesome, but you know, not to go on for 45 minutes, but the Force theme would be my favorite.
Yep. You still there?
Yeah.
Oh,
what was yours?
That was weird. So my favorite is, I would go with Duel of the Fates. You know, that's stereotypical. It's from Phantom Menace. You hear it for the first time. I don't think you hear much after that, but definitely my favorite. There's actually a metal version of this song by I believe the band is called Galactic Empire. I believe. I'll have to double check that, but I listen to it at the gym all the time when I'm weightlifting and stuff. I love it. So It's definitely my favorite. I've also seen a lot of fan videos on it too for like different, not even just Star Wars, for like different shows and stuff, like kind of like
Yep.
battles. So it's kind of cool. So I would probably say that's my favorite. The second one I would say is Across the Stars. There's something about that song that just like it's so good, but it's so like you could just tell the sadness and like tragedy behind it because it just it comes from was it episode 2, I believe. It's from Clone Wars is when it kind of debuted with Anakin, Padme, and like their fantastic love scenes in that movie.
Yeah.
But that song just captures that whole like it's all I don't know how to explain it. It's just like that sadness, but it's also like hopeful at the same time. It's
Yep.
just yeah,
It is a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah.
it's an awesome song. So yeah, Duel of the Fates would still be my number one.
Cool.
Yeah, so thanks Ebon Hawk for those 2 questions. That's yeah, we had to think a little bit about those.
I think it's Ebon Hawk, and do you know where
Ebon
that's
Hawk,
from?
yeah, no,
That's it's Knights of
Ebon
the Old
Hawk.
Republic.
Oh yeah,
That's
that's
the
right.
ship.
My bad. I completely forgot about that.
No, I know.
I don't even think. Yeah, I completely forgot. Which is bad. Uh, so our third question is from my buddy Jamie, who he's a trainer at JTAB. Missing you down there, buddy. His question is, what happened to Ahsoka and Ezra? Their voices were at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and but all the other voices were dead. So this is kind of a speculative one because there's no direct answer to what happens to them. Ollie, I don't know if you want to kick that one off as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably dead.
I mean, age wise, they would be up there.
Yeah, Ezra's like Luke's age, and Ahsoka, I don't think we know like how old Togrutas can live till. So, yeah. I mean,
chances are they're probably
if you make it to human standards, then she'd be old. Yeah, she'd be probably
90.
She was younger than Anakin. Yeah, she'd be up there, 70s, 80s, 90s, something like that.
Yeah.
But we don't, the whole Jedi thing that they can live longer, and she's a different species, so who knows? This one's I will say it's an odd one for me because Ahsoka officially left the Jedi Order and was no longer a Jedi, and Ezra was never a Jedi. And they both, I think what's interesting is they both kind of took on at the end, especially Ahsoka, but Ezra too, kind of took on what the Jedi should have become.
Yeah.
Right? Like they both had emotions and felt, you know what I mean, weren't that pure Jedi high and mighty kind of thing. You know what I mean? They both kind of became more like what people would consider just like good moral people, but they have flaws. You know what I mean? But accept them and live life. So they, to me, represent where the Jedi Order should have gone, and maybe is going with Rey. Just not being super like monkish, like the high, like the High Council.
Yeah, I was gonna say
they turned into.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's the High Council is so rigid that you can't love, you can't have feelings, blah blah blah.
Right, and I think that's what led to their downfall.
Yeah,
but it is this is kind of one of the ones that to me is like the shoe-in of canon. Yep. Right? It was like, oh, we're gonna have a bunch of Jedi speak. Who should we pick? And they were like, well, Ezra and Ahsoka are really popular. You know what I mean? Like mix their voices in there and everybody think it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's like these are the issues I have with the movies versus the rest of canon, is that like canon. I've been asking and begging for them to get more canon into the movies. Kanan, you know what I mean? Because you can do it in the background. Well, Kanan was a Jedi.
Yeah, right? Yeah,
and but never like really well, he was a Padawan. And he didn't really choose to leave. He got kind of like because of Order 66. So to me, his is more acceptable than Ahsoka and Ezra as the Jedi backing her up. But I'm like kind of okay with it because I think they were purely what was to come, what Rey is going to build. You know what I mean? More like that less rigid structure. She's going to learn from the mistakes of where the Jedi Council had become and everything like that. So, I think it probably leads me to believe that they're both dead. Yeah. which is a bummer. But we'll probably get a lot more answers in the new the Rebel sequel series.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the new series is definitely gonna. Well, yeah, we'll definitely probably have some answers from that. That's coming out at the winter 2020. I'm looking up the other, just the other voices
There was
too.
a lot. There was a lot of Jedi from the Clone Wars and stuff like that, which I think is cool. I think it's a cool mix, right? Because again, like I said, Ezra and Ahsoka are not Jedi.
Yeah.
But I think to me, you know, throughout canon, they became what Rey is going to eventually build, right? This less stringent on all those rules and allow people to be human. You got to be careful, but a lot of the, you know, like Anakin and Ben pretty much fell to the dark side because of the strict rules. You know what I mean? Like that there was no, you know, even Luke kind of admits it, that like it's just the hubris of the Jedi thinking that they were, you know what I mean?
I'm looking at, not to get off track, but I am looking at the voices again, just thinking about your comment about how they kind of just shoot in canon. They kind of did the same with, let's see, Luminara Unduli, and then
Aya Secura.
And then there was.
But they're from Clone Wars, and they were in the. I don't think Unduli was. No, she was in it. She was in the actual movies, and so
she was in the
Ayala Secura.
And then Adi Gallia.
Adi Gallia also, I think, had a scene in Phantom
Menace as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, which is fine.
But those were all Jedi, though.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And died Jedi and everything like that. That's why I'm saying, like, the Ahsoka and the Ezra ones are the biggest difference. Those voices being in there change it a little bit, right? Because it's kind of like all the light side users behind her as opposed to all the Jedi. It wasn't like all the old Jedi are just behind her. Like, you know, go Rey, like reset up this super strict order that ended up with the Republic's downfall. Adding the other two kind of seems like almost like the Force accepted that the light side could be a little more broad. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
Which I think is cool. But I also think it may not have been done for that reason. It was probably done for the reason of like, oh, who are popular voices that we can get? You know what I mean? It's like Ezra and Sabine, or Ezra and Ahsoka, get them in there. So so my opinion is I don't think they were put in there with much thought of them being dead. But I think by now having them in there, I think now kind of Filoni is, well, they have to be dead before then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a bummer because, you know, I think there could have been a little bit more done with them. Who knows? Ahsoka could have helped Rey rebuild or Force, you know, Ezra could have helped Rey rebuild with like the Force Collector, like we've talked about kind of thing, which would have been neat. But I think, you know, they threw them in there because they're popular voices and hey, it's canon, you know, canon fans will be happy without really thinking that like, oh, they could be alive and you know what I mean? I think it was just like a marketing thing. Who are the popular other characters that we can get in here so canon fans will be happy? All right, throw them in there. And then it's like, oh shit, that probably means they're dead.
Right, exactly. So that now it's like, but it's not bad at the same time because now it's like it got people talking because now it's like, are they really dead? Well, what's going on? Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, all this stuff is, you know, we're speculating. Yeah. Dave Filoni could have very easily, they could have asked, or the story group, and we could have been like, oh, they very well may already have Ezra, Thrawn, and Ahsoka's story completely written and know exactly when they die or disappear again or whatever. So they offered that up to JJ and he took it. But I doubt that's what happened.
Dude, I think we need to get you like hired by Lucasfilms or something. Like just put you in there as like a plant so you can just tell us like everything.
No, I mean, I think I don't think it's I think the story group people are amazing. Like Matt Martin and Pablo Hidalgo, and Pablo's not really on Twitter anymore because the fans like attack him, but like Matt Martin's on there
and he just drops
really
bombs
good and they know so much. Obviously they write a lot of stuff, but I don't, my problem isn't with the story group. I think it's how they use the story group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like, not cohesive.
The story group should be involved in everything and have more input and saying like you can't do that or don't do that. You know what I mean? But it seems like they're fans, like big fans, and they have a lot to do with a lot of things. But sometimes the movies, I feel like the movies are just like a totally different thing. Where like maybe afterwards they're like, hey, can we do this? And unless it's like something crazy, like, I don't know, Kanan comes back and they're like, no, Kanan died. And they're like, oh shit, my bad. Like, unless it's something like terrible like that, I feel like they don't really, I don't feel like they get used.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they're the ones that keep canon together.
Right.
Which must be so hard with all the different media and stuff. But it's even harder when, like, I feel like the main things that everybody sees, the movies, like, they don't really get.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Happens instead of having the story group in with JJ to help write the movie and not help write the movie, but like bounce ideas off of it. Seems like they're only used when like JJ has a question like, hey, can I do this? And they're like, well, yeah, technically, even though they don't hear the whole question. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. Any other comments on that? Or you think that wraps it up?
No, I think that wraps it up.
All right. Thanks, Jamie, for the question. All right. So thank you, everyone, for thank you, everyone, for listening to our podcast. We appreciate everyone listening and supporting us. Make sure to follow us on all our streaming services and our YouTube channel. Again, we have some stuff in the pipeline. It's just we've been crazy busy as of late, and but with Clone Wars coming up, we're going to be doing episodes on that, and then we're going to continue our routine Podawan podcast on a weekly basis. So send us your questions, comment on our threads, and we'll feature you on the podcast when we read the questions. So other than that, see you later, Podawans.
Later.